everybody, welcome back to Your Pal here. My name is Pal. Today I'm going to be doing a video for you guys talking about bar chords. And I know a lot of people have trouble with bar chords. And what you can do basically is play some other types of chords to get around any difficulties you might be having with bar chords. So that's what this video is going to be about. Especially on acoustic. A lot of people start playing guitar, they start playing acoustic. They have a lot of difficulty with bar chords. It takes a lot of hand strength and coordination to really kind of get that finger kind of barred across. You're doing a really strong pinch like this with your fingers. And sometimes it just gets really tiring. And honestly, I mean, I've been playing guitar for a long time. I started out learning bar chords on electric. I didn't even have an acoustic for a long time. But even so, there are certain types of progressions where if you have a lot of bar chords kind of in a row, you know, it could just get really tiring, even if you're, you know, like a experienced guitar player. So I actually have a song that I'm working on that I just played the little intro piece for. This song, when I wrote it originally, I have a lot of bar chords in there, and I've had a lot of trouble with this song. And doing this video, or prepping for doing this video, actually has helped me to realize that I should change some of the chords in the song to make it easier to play and to actually make it sound nicer. So yeah, basically, you know, if you know, if you've been playing guitar for a little while, you probably know like a bar chord shape for the you know, major chord. So it's just like this fret, this fret, this fret, this fret, and then so you're basically like, this is a G major chord. You would be barring your finger across the 3rd fret all the way down, and then you would use your ring finger and pinky finger on the 5th fret of the A string and the D string, and then your middle finger on the 4th fret of the G string. So you have the G major. And I'm going to that chord, and then afterward I go to a B minor chord, and then a C, what is that? C dominant 7 chord. And then this song actually has a lot of strummed bar chords afterward too, because there's a section where I had been going from this B minor to the what is this, G, no, sorry, it's a D. D7, a D dominant 7, and then back to A major. And so it would sound like this. This is what the part would have been played like originally. Then I would go to the next part. It's a lot of bar chords, and then it goes back to that kind of intro part. And usually by that point, I mean, my hands are really tired. There's a lot of bar chords, and this kind of repeats a couple of times, and then there's another section with more bar chords. So you know, this, especially on the acoustic, is really challenging for me to play. The strings are a little heavier than the electric, and that's what I primarily play anyway. So for me, this is quite a challenge. And you know, what you can do is just change it up so that you're not constantly just playing bar chord after bar chord. I think it also makes it sound nicer because you're not getting that same kind of sound. I talk a little bit about this in my previous video that I did, talking about why I think it's more important to learn chords and inversions and stuff like that instead of just scales. So check out that video if you haven't seen it. But basically, I think you can get a lot more variety of the sound. You can introduce other notes. You can do additional kind of embellishments with fingers that are freed up if you're not having to play, you know, just strict bar chords, or just your open shape kind of chords that that everyone kind of starts off learning. So what I want to show you guys is that instead of playing this G major like this, which is really tiring, what I'm going to do is just simply play these 3 notes, a triad, for the G major. So it's basically the same notes. It's the root, the 3rd, and the 5th of the G major, but I'm not playing this bottom 2, and I'm not playing the highest G as well. So I'm just going to play that, you know, 5th on the D, fourth on the G, and the third on the B. So when I go to this section, I'm using my thumb a little bit wrapped around to mute the low E and the A string. That kind of helps just keep it clean. And just by the nature of using this finger, my first finger on the B string, I'm actually just kind of resting it so that I'm fretting that note, and I'm resting the kind of fleshy part of that finger on the high E string so that it's muted as well. As you can see, I'm not able to really get sound out of that string because I don't want that sound. I just want those three notes. So the bottom strings I'm muting with my thumb, and the high string I'm muting with that first finger. So, and you'll notice it obviously sounds different than this full chord. A lot less bass, a lot less kind of body to the chord, but I think it actually sounds a lot nicer. Especially if if you're kind of hearing the arrangement, for this particular song, I'm thinking, I'm obviously going to want to have a bass in there, so maybe I'll be playing the root G, with a bass, or maybe another guitar. I'm not even sure yet, but basically leaving some extra space there for other instruments to take up in the mix is actually a good thing, as I talked about in that other video. So again, you can do other chords too. You could have played, the kind of typical G chord that most people learn, and that actually sounds decent as well, so you could do that. But again, it's a lot of body, a lot of space. I prefer the sound of just that simple triad. I'll play them back to back so you guys can hear the difference. I like that much better, so I'm actually happy that I kind of messed around with that. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you guys is this little section that goes from the B minor to the D dominant 7 to the A major. That part, I'm going to actually change it up to a different area of the neck. I'm going to play the B minor over here, like this. Now, this is technically kind of a bar chord, but for me, this is still a lot easier to play this minor 7 shape than to play this. It's a lot easier because you're not pinching across, the pointer finger on all those frets. You're really just kind of able to, only bar 4 strings with one finger, and then I'm still fretting this finger, this string with this finger. So what I'm doing is, you can imagine that you're playing every note except the A string on this one, if you're not familiar with this shape. Some people kind of play it like this with their thumb. I've kind of learned it this way, where you use your middle finger on the E string, and then you kind of lay the ring finger down flat on the D, G, B, and E, like that. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. It's probably a little bit of a different angle. I'll try to hold it close for you guys so you can see it like that. You're basically just skipping the A string. That's the main thing. So I'm going to play that for the B minor instead of this. I'm going to play this. It's a little bit of a different voicing, but it's the same notes. And again, you can experiment with other ones. You could maybe include less notes. I like this one. I messed around with a few other ones. This is the one that I think sounds good. And then instead of going to the D dominant 7 here, I'm going to go here. And instead of going to the A major here, I'm going to go to a different voicing there, which I actually think sounds way better and a lot nicer. So I'll show you guys. Again, there's this B minor 7 here. There's the D dominant 7 here. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's probably a little bit challenging to see from the shape of the chord, but I'm going to walk you through it. So it's basically taking your first finger, holding it on the 10th fret of the low E string. That's going to be your root note. That's the D. You're going to play the 7 of the chord, which is here on the D string. You're going to use your middle finger on that one. You're skipping the A string. So you're going 10 on the low E, 10 on the D string, and then you're going to use your pinky on the 11th of the G string, and you're going to use your ring finger on the 10th of the B string. So it's almost like this shape, except you're using your pinky to kind of, you know, poke out another note here on the G string. If you can imagine, like a little arrow pointing towards the bridge of the guitar. So that is the dominant 7 that I'm going to use for the D chord. And then what I'm doing is for the A chord, instead of playing this, I'm going to play that same chord. I'm going to play the A string, which is going to be the root note, the A. And then I'm going to play the 11th fret on the D string, which is going to be the 3rd of the chord. Then I'm going to play the 5th of the chord here with my first finger on the G string. And I'm going to use the middle finger on the B string, and that's going to give me the root again. So basically, that is a nice open sounding kind of A to replace this one. Again, it takes up a little bit less space in the in the audio spectrum. I think it'll sound a lot nicer when you hear that. So hopefully you guys can hear that. It just sounds just ever so slightly different, but I think, again, in a mix, it could be really nice. And it's a heck of a lot easier on the hands. So, I mean, just playing these shapes, they might be a little bit uncomfortable if you're not familiar with them, just to get them. But once you've learned the shape, physically, it's way less demanding. So I think it's got a lot of benefits. It's easier to play. It gives you different voicings. It makes it sound a little different, makes it more kind of airy, less boomy, takes up less of the kind of audio spectrum, leaves more space for the other instruments in a mix, and or even just for a voice. So I just think it's a nice thing, that kind of gives you some additional options and really, frees you up in your playing so that you're going up around the neck a little bit better, getting used to things. And I'm still gonna probably, leave some bar chords in the song where I think they are kind of still, the best suited chord for that option or what have you. When I go back, I want to go back to the G major shape and play that as a bar chord shape instead of just this stripped down, triad shape. I'm going to go back to the G. Because for that section, going back, I like that heaviness and the kind of big space of this, as opposed to just the... So I think, again, you can vary it, you can play both, and I'm still going to play the bar chord here and here. I don't think it would sound as nice here and here as, up here as down here, to go back to that. So where appropriate, I'm still going to use it, and I would recommend that you still learn bar chords. Even if you're having trouble with them, I definitely think you should practice them and work on them. But what I am saying is try to be creative, try to use some other voicings and other chord shapes that might be easier on your hands and give yourself more options. There's another cool section of the song that I want to show you guys really quick. There was a section, how did it go? It would go from this, whatever that is, D dominant 7 to this, I don't even know what this chord is, quite honestly. Some kind of like a C major with a A over, so I guess it's like a A over C kind of thing, but it would go like this, and then I would go back to the G major. So I would do D dominant 7, this A over C, and then back to the G major. So it would go like this. And this C major shape with the A, what I'm doing is I'm just playing the A open string. I'm playing the 10th fret of the D string, 9th fret of the G string, and the 8th fret of the B string. So you get this shape. And I am muting the low E and the high E, similar to what I showed you guys before, with the first finger on the B kind of muting the high E and then the thumb muting the low E. So it's just ringing out the middle strings like this. And And what I'm going to do is change this section as well. So I'm going to do the D dominant 7. I'll leave that as the bar chord. I'm going to keep this. And then this conveniently just goes back to that G, and I'm just going to do that same kind of mute, and I'm just going to play that. So it's going to sound like this. So again, listen to the difference. I'll play maybe, you know, both ways so you can hear them back to back. I think it's a lot nicer with this stripped down kind of, you know, triad version of the G major as opposed to the full bar chord version with the heavy, you know, bass note in there. I just think it sounds nicer. So I'll play them back to back so you guys can hear it. I think it sounds a lot nicer, and it's way easier on the hands. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this this video. I hope you guys found that useful. I definitely recommend, you know, learning some other shapes, learn some other inversions. You can really, I don't know, give your sound a new kind of creative element that you might not have, you know, appreciated before. It can definitely help you get a better sounding part that sits better in a mix without hitting too many low notes and that kind of thing. Give your sound a little bit more of an airy, open kind of sound. I just think it's a good thing to play with, and it really saves the hands, especially on the acoustic. For me, I find the bar chords to be a challenge too, even after 26 years of guitar playing. So it just really depends on the song. I mean, playing 1 or 2 bar chords, I don't think is usually a challenge once you're you know, pretty well practiced. But when you have like a bunch of them in a row, it can get really tiring. And just, you know, audibly it can get tiring, like in a mix, if you're taking up all that space. I keep going back to that as an important point too. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. And yeah, hope to see you in another video soon. And please subscribe if you haven't signed up yet, if you want to see more of these kinds of videos in the future. Thanks. Bye.